thank you for inviting me here to share some of our experiences on green buildings and sustainability. As Franz mentioned, I work for a company that is called Vasakronan. We're actually not just one of the biggest real estate company, but the biggest. We have a property of office and retail, a portfolio of office and retail property here in Sweden with a value of about 10 billion euros, around 10 billion euros. We focus on four big regions here in Sweden. It's the Malmö region, Stockholm, the capital of Sweden, Gothenburg, and a smaller university city outside Stockholm, which is called Uppsala. We are not a listed company, but we are owned by four big Swedish pension funds. They are called the AP funds. And they are quite stringent about how we should run our business. They think that we should be Sweden's leading property company and a model for Swedish industry. And to be leading not only in terms of revenue, but also in terms of not harming the planet or people when we do our business. And that is why sustainability is so important for us. And when we talk about sustainability, it's about our economic impact, our environmental impact, and also our social impact. And the economic impact, of course, is about the revenue to our owners and to pay taxes where we have our business and to also show our financial status to our stakeholders, of course, in an accurate way. But maybe, or sometimes when I talk about this and our social impact, I understand that there is sometimes a lack of understanding of what type of social impact a real estate company has, especially a real estate company focusing on office buildings and retail buildings. But social impact is actually impact on people. And then you have to think about what kind of people do you what kind of people do you have an impact on? And as a property owner, it's of course a lot of employees within our company, but we also have a lot of suppliers with employees that do work for us. So that's of course a very important type of people that we affect with our business. But I think an even larger part of people is actually the people spending a lot of time inside our buildings, the employees of our tenants. Of course, we sometimes we did an estimate of that, and we counted it to about 40,000 people entering a Vasakronan building every day, and that we, in many terms, then have an effect on. But it's also about people spending time around our buildings, in our shopping centers, and passing just the property that we own on the street. And our environmental impact is mainly four topics. It's materials, and it's about what type of materials we use, but also how much. And that is actually a topic that is rising now, at least here in Sweden. We have been talking quite a lot of about energy, but now materials as a priority topic is actually being addressed. And then waste. It's construction waste, of course, but it's also all the waste that we collect in our buildings from our tenants. And then we also work on transportation and travel. And maybe that's a bit stupid because there is nothing as still as a building. You don't have to transport it to our tenants, but they have to come to the building. So we do have an impact because we can help our tenants on how they commute to work every day. And we also have to get around ourselves among our buildings to do work, etc. And last but not least, energy use, of course. And that it's about reducing the energy consumption in the buildings, but also focus on 100% renewable energy sources for the energy purpose. We think that we can do quite a lot on our own, but we can reach even further if we cooperate with our tenants and with our suppliers. And a few years ago, we found a useful tool to tenant cooperation or tenant engagement, and that's green leases. And we started to sign green leases in 2010, and since then we've signed over 1,000 green lease agreements. And to address suppliers, we have a code of conduct that they have to obey when they do work for us. So we address the cooperation with the suppliers that way. And this is just some figures about the results so far. In 2009, we set out a new goal for energy reduction in our portfolio. And the goal was to become 50% below industry average in Sweden. And since then, we have reduced the actual energy use in our building with about 35 or 33%. And as a consequence of that, and by shifting to renewable energy sources in the entire portfolio, we have reduced our carbon emissions by 95% since 2006. So if you set up ambitious goals, it's possible to really improve your performance. That's our belief. And now we have a new, very ambitious goal, and that's about certifying our portfolio. And we've chosen to certify all our buildings, mainly with the certification scheme called LEED, and that's because there is a good tool for existing buildings, and you can compare them with new buildings and property development projects. And this goal we set out 2 years ago. Last year we reached 53% certified buildings in the portfolio, and we think that we will reach around 80% by this year. What I actually would like to share today is not what we do and how we do it, but actually why we do it. Because that's important, because when you understand the why, that's when you have the actions taken. And working with reducing your environmental and your social impact actually has a lot of cost reductions. Of course, I see some nodding heads, yes, because if you reduce your energy consumption, if you sort your waste, turn it into resources instead of crap that you have to pay to get rid of, you actually save quite a lot of money. That's a no-brainer, I would say. But it is actually that way. We have invested like, I think it's around 170 million Swedish crowns in energy saving the last 3 years. And that has made us save at least, oh sorry, I think I forgot the numbers. It's because I'm trying to to calculate it in euros instead, but I have to do it in Swedish crowns, I think. We have invested for the last 3 years 170 million Swedish crowns. So forget about the crowns, but it's quite easy. It's 1 euro is around 10 Swedish crowns, and that made us save 100 million crowns each year. So you can understand, it's quite good. It's quite a good investment. But the fun thing is when you work with real estate, it's not only important to work on your yearly, savings or your costs, because you also have to focus on the property value and how much your portfolio is actually worth. And when you appraise properties, there is a very simple or very easy tool or method to do that. You divide your yearly, what is it called? Driftnetto. I can't. Do you know it? No one else there. Never mind. You divide it with the yield in the area. So if you have a yield that is 5% and you say 100 million, it's very easy to count how much value that will create. How much? I think you're very good at calculation. That's my expectation of acoustic people. So 100 million divided by 5%. 20? Come on, come on. It's early in the morning, but try.
100 million divided by 5%.
Yes, because the 5% is the yield in the market.
5%, 5 million, so 100 by 5, it's just 20.
No, it's not 20. But it begins with the 2, number 2. It is early, but try. Please try. I want you to think. 20,000? 20,000 millions, yes. And that usually we call it 2 billions. Yes, okay. So actually you should not compare 170 millions with yearly savings of 100 millions. You should actually compare it. 170 millions invested in energy savings counts for an added value of 2 billions. Yeah, okay. So it's quite a lot of money. At least if the rest of the market think that this is an existing cost reduction that will last over time, but they usually do when you make energy improvements. So another way of or another way that sustainability work improve your revenue is actually about the rent. Sorry for the Swedish in but the rest is in English. This is from a conference in Stockholm a few weeks ago. It was by an organization called MSCY. I don't know if someone is familiar with that organization. No, it's a worldwide organization that work on appraising property appraising or property values. And what this slide says is that in green buildings, and this is an example from Stockholm, you actually see higher rents. And when you talk about the rents, it's actually more than 170 millions each year. Probably you can add another 0 on that value. So this is really where you have your impact, because office tenants and also nowadays retail tenants actually prefer to stay in a green building. Well, H&M should not move out from their flagship store in Stockholm because the building is not green, but they do focus on this, and they really ask us to improve our buildings in terms of sustainability nowadays. And the third example on how this improve your revenue as a real estate owner is in the transaction markets. My intention was not that you should read this, but I highlighted some things from the resume of this. This is like property transactions or property marketing. And as you see, you can see that the brokers really focus on this. If the property is green, they try to really screen that out. And what is it that they usually put in the resume? Or what do they scream out? Things that they think sell about the property. One fourth example on how this improve our revenue is actually about financing our business. In November 2013, we were the first company in the world to launch a green bond. And by that, we were able to reach totally new investors. They did not buy our bonds before. And we see that by this, we will be able to get more access to finance and also improve the cost of financing our business. So 4 examples on how this really has an impact on our revenue. Cost reduction, occupier market, investment market, and now also the debt market. What about the future? Maybe you notice that most of my examples are about environmental impact and not so much about social impact. But what we actually see now is a higher demand from office tenants on health, well-being, and productivity issues. They think that this is really important. They invest so much money in employee, and they also invested quite a lot of money on furniture and other nice things to have in the office environment. But now they also ask us questions about how will this environment affect our employees and our productivity. Another thing that I would like to mention, which is both about environmental performance but also on human experience, is a shift in the market from calculated data and design phase to show your stakeholders actual performance. And I don't know if you can see, this is a tool to display your actual environmental and social performance in a building. And there is quite a lot of things on the energy side, but maybe you can notice that the last thing you should measure here real time is human experience. Another thing that I think is important to talk about when you talk about office and sustainability and green things is who needs an office, actually. Nowadays, we see a lot of people in cafes, hotel lobbies, etc., working. And we also see phenomena as office. Are you familiar with the office term? Home office, yes. You invite people to your home, work together, have like workshops together, etc. And then next day you move to another person's home. And some people argue you don't even need a space because you have your office in your pocket all day. And this is something that we really see quite a lot of now. We have, I think, around 10,000 visitors each year at our office in Stockholm because we have an activity-based office space, and we've had that for 3 years, and there is quite a lot of interest for that in the market. And what I see is when you move into or when you shift to an activity-based office type of space, I think that could have an impact on how you plan for acoustics in the office environment. So that's something that I would like to bring into the discussions further on. And I think that was all for me. Do you have any questions?